Thinking of buying a used tractor? You might want to hold that thought. While some models are built like tanks and run forever, others are known for one thing: breaking down. In this video, we're counting down 13 used tractors to stay away from, all because of the engine under the hood. These tractors might look like a good deal at first, but once the problems start, from hard cold starts and overheating, to cracked heads, poor compression, or just impossible to find parts, they can turn into a real nightmare. We're not just talking about random complaints here. Every tractor on this list is matched with an engine that has a proven track record of issues, frustration, and expensive repairs. Some are old classics with hidden flaws. Others are more recent but suffer from design flaws or unreliable components. If you're buying used from a private seller, auction, or even a dealership, this video could save you thousands in repairs and hours of downtime. So let's dive in and break down the 13 tractors that might be better left in the past. Starting with number 13. Number 13, the Oliver 1855 was supposed to be a solid step forward in the competitive row crop tractor market of the 1970s. But its legacy is marred almost entirely by one critical flaw: the Waukesha 310 turbo diesel engine. On paper, it looked like a winner: 6 cylinders, turbocharged, and rated at around 100 horsepower, giving it the muscle to handle heavy fieldwork. But in reality, the engine was pushed far beyond what it was originally designed to handle. The 310 block wasn't built for turbocharging or the higher RPMs Oliver demanded, leading to serious reliability problems. The crankshaft, connecting rods, and main bearings were all vulnerable under stress, and the cooling system simply couldn't keep up with the additional heat from the turbo. The result? Cracked blocks, spun bearings, and complete engine failures, sometimes in under 1,000 hours. Worse still, oil starvation issues were common due to poor lubrication design. Many farmers were forced to either completely rebuild the engine, often at great expense, or scrap the tractor altogether. Even those who tried to upgrade components found limited long-term success. While the rest of the tractor was well built, the Waukesha 310's flaws overshadowed everything else. The Oliver 1855 should have been a dependable workhorse, but thanks to its underbuilt heart, it's remembered more for frustration than for field performance. Number 12. The Minneapolis-Moline G1355 had the makings of a powerhouse on paper, but its downfall came in the form of one deeply flawed component: the Caterpillar 3150 diesel engine. When White Farm Equipment paired this V8 engine with the G1355 chassis, they aimed to create a high-horsepower brute capable of competing with the largest row crop tractors of the early 1970s. Unfortunately, the 3150 was a poor match. Originally designed for industrial and stationary use, it was not built for the constant load, vibration, and varied RPM demands of heavy fieldwork. Its dry sleeves and relatively thin block castings made it prone to overheating and cracking under sustained stress. The oiling system was another sore spot, with insufficient flow leading to premature bearing and camshaft wear. Operators quickly learned that even with careful maintenance, failures were more a matter of when than if. Many suffered dropped valves, head gasket failures, or complete engine lockups well before reaching 2,000 hours. To make matters worse, the 3150 lacked a strong aftermarket support network, making repairs expensive and parts hard to source. While the rest of the G1355, its rear end, hydraulics, and transmission, was decently rugged, the engine's chronic reliability issues doomed the tractor's reputation. What could have been a competitive flagship instead became one of the most frustrating machines of its era for those unlucky enough to own one. Number 11. The Massey Ferguson 97, powered by the GM 4-53 Detroit diesel, is often remembered less for its pulling power and more for the frustration it caused in the field. The 453 was a 2-stroke, 4-cylinder diesel engine known for its high revving nature and screaming exhaust note, characteristics that made it better suited for stationary or industrial applications than for agricultural work. While it delivered respectable horsepower for its size, Farmers quickly discovered that this engine was anything but forgiving. The narrow power band made it difficult to operate efficiently under load, requiring constant gear shifting to stay in its sweet spot. Its two-stroke design meant it was noisy, smoked heavily, and drank fuel at an alarming rate compared to four-stroke diesel rivals. On top of that, the engine was sensitive to lugging. Operators who didn't keep the RPMs high risked serious damage, including scored cylinders and broken pistons. Maintenance was another sore spot. Frequent valve adjustments and injector servicing were required to keep the engine running, and parts weren't always easy to come by. Even experienced operators found the engine temperamental and finicky. While the rest of the MF97 was built on a strong Minneapolis-Moline frame and offered decent durability, the GM 4-53 undercut its potential. Instead of being remembered as a dependable field machine, the MF97 became notorious for being loud, thirsty, and stubbornly difficult to live with. Number 10. The International Harvester C60 engine, found in the beloved but modest Farmall Cub, was never designed to be a powerhouse. But even by small tractor standards, its performance left much to be desired. This four-cylinder, 60-cubic-inch gasoline engine was intentionally built small to suit the lightweight and affordable Cub platform, but its painfully low horsepower, just over 10 at the drawbar, often left users frustrated in anything beyond the lightest of tasks. The C60's biggest flaw wasn't catastrophic failure, but chronic underperformance. It struggled with anything more demanding than cultivating or mowing, bogging down easily in heavy soil, or when using implements even slightly outside its narrow range. Adding to the trouble, early versions of the engine were prone to cracked cylinder heads and warped manifolds due to inconsistent casting quality and overheating issues. The gravity-fed fuel system and magneto-ignition were simple but often unreliable, particularly in cold weather, making starts a gamble. Worse, worn valves and low compression were common after only a few seasons of regular use, requiring frequent rebuilds or complete overhauls. While the Farmall Cub had charm and served well in niche roles, the C60 engine held it back from being truly versatile. Rather than a small but mighty workhorse, it became known as a tractor that asked more patience from its operator than power from its engine. Number 9. The John Deere 531 diesel engine, used in several models like the 4520, 4620, and early 8430s, started with promise but quickly earned a reputation as one of Deere's more troublesome power plants. Introduced during a period when John Deere was pushing hard to compete in the high horsepower market, the 531 was a turbocharged inline six that looked solid on paper. But in the field, the flaws became painfully clear. The engine was prone to head gasket failures, especially under load or in hot conditions, due to uneven cooling and cylinder distortion. The block's structural limitations couldn't handle the added boost pressure and thermal stress, leading to frequent cavitation issues and cracked liners. Many operators reported severe piston scuffing and scored cylinders. Some engines barely made it past 2,000 hours without requiring major overhauls. Oil consumption was excessive, and the early engines suffered from weak bottom-end design, making spun bearings a regular headache. Deere tried to revise and strengthen the design over time, but the damage to its reputation was already done. The 531's unreliability made it expensive to own and maintain, especially for farmers who needed dependable horsepower day in and day out. Instead of being remembered as a reliable workhorse, the John Deere 531 diesel became a cautionary tale, proof that even the green giants could miss the mark when chasing power without durability. Number 8. The Massey Ferguson 2000, built around the well-known Perkins AD 3.152 diesel engine, should have delivered simple, reliable performance, but instead it ended up frustrating many of its owners due to persistent engine-related shortcomings. The AD 3.152 was a three-cylinder, 152 cubic-inch diesel that had seen widespread use in other MF models, but when placed in the 2000, it was noticeably underpowered for the tractor's size and weight. With less than 40 horsepower available at the PTO, the engine often felt overwhelmed, especially during heavy tillage or when running PTO-driven equipment for extended periods. It had a narrow torque curve and little forgiveness for lugging, forcing operators to downshift frequently or risk stalling entirely. Cold weather starting was a common issue. Without a block heater or ether, the AD-3.152 could be nearly impossible to fire up in winter conditions, thanks to low compression and weak glow plug systems. Additionally, poor fuel atomization and uneven injector performance led to rough idling and higher than expected fuel consumption for such a small engine. Valve train wear and head gasket leaks also began to show after only moderate hours of use. While the engine had a decent reputation in lighter-duty tractors, its limitations became glaringly obvious in the MF2000. Instead of a nimble utility machine, owners were left with a sluggish, high-maintenance tractor that struggled to punch above its weight. Number 7, the Allis-Chalmers D21 was a bold move into the high-horsepower game, but its original Allis-built 426 cubic inch diesel engine proved to be its Achilles heel in early production. Designed to push the limits with over 100 horsepower, the engine looked impressive on paper, but it wasn't up to the task. The naturally aspirated 426 struggled with excessive heat under load due to a cooling system that couldn't keep up, leading to frequent overheating and warped heads. Internal components like pistons and rings wore prematurely, especially when operators pushed the engine hard for extended periods. Worse still, the early versions of the engine were known for weak cylinder blocks that were prone to cracking under stress. Oil consumption was often excessive, and cavitation damage in the liners could appear far too early in the tractor's life. Fuel injection timing and combustion efficiency also lagged behind competitors, resulting in smoky exhaust and inconsistent power delivery. By the time Allis-Chalmers added a turbocharger to improve performance, much of the damage to the engine's reputation had already been done. Farmers expected a rugged, reliable tractor at this size class, but the early D21 often let them down with costly repairs and underwhelming field performance. Instead of being the flagship Allis needed, the D21's 426 diesel made it a gamble, one that left many owners paying more for problems than productivity. Number 6, the Steiger Wildcat paired a tough, no-nonsense chassis with a Caterpillar 3208 diesel, a combination that looked promising but ultimately proved problematic due to the engine's shortcomings. The 3208 was a V8, naturally aspirated diesel originally designed for medium-duty trucks and industrial applications, not for the relentless torque demands of heavy tillage. Its parent bore block design lacked removable liners, meaning engine overhauls were costly and often impractical, especially for farmers running machines deep into high-hour territory. The engine suffered from thin cylinder walls and marginal cooling capacity, leading to frequent overheating under load. Valve train wear and camshaft failures were common, and fuel injection timing drifted over time, causing power loss and excessive smoking. The 3208 also had a narrow power band and lacked low-end grunt, which made it a poor match for the hard-pulling tasks the Steiger Wildcat was built to handle. Many operators found themselves constantly downshifting just to keep the engine alive, a frustrating experience in a tractor that should have thrived in the dirt. Worst of all, parts availability and rebuild options were limited compared to other diesel platforms, making ownership even more painful when problems inevitably surfaced. While the Wildcat's frame, axles, and transmission were classic Steiger tough, the Caterpillar 3208 dragged the whole package down. Instead of a rugged prairie predator, it often felt more like a house cat in a lion's roll. Number 5. The Ford 600 diesel and its close cousin, the NA8 diesel, were both saddled with the deeply flawed Ford 144 diesel engine, an ambitious but ultimately disappointing power plant that left a sour taste for many early diesel adopters. The 144 was a 4-cylinder diesel that looked promising as Ford's first compact diesel offering, but it was plagued by chronic hard-starting issues, especially in cold weather. Even with glow plugs, many owners had to resort to ether just to get it turning over. And once running, the engine was loud, smoky, and vibrated heavily at idle. The fuel injection system was temperamental, often requiring frequent servicing to maintain smooth operation, and many units suffered from uneven combustion and poor fuel atomization. Worse, the engine block was known for cracking around the cylinder sleeves, particularly if the cooling system wasn't meticulously maintained, something all too common in the field. Oil dilution from unburnt fuel also led to premature bearing and camshaft wear, reducing engine life drastically. Despite its modest horsepower output of around 31, the engine felt overworked and underbuilt, especially when compared to the smoother, more reliable gasoline versions. Rather than being a durable step forward in diesel technology for small tractors, the Ford 144 diesel became a cautionary tale. It frustrated operators with reliability issues, high maintenance needs, and lackluster performance, making these early diesel Fords more headache. Number 4, the International Harvester 560 should have been a cornerstone of IH's lineup, but the C263 diesel engine turned it into one of the company's most infamous missteps. This 4-cylinder, 263 cubic inch diesel was derived from older gas engine architecture and rushed into production without sufficient testing, especially under the demands of high horsepower diesel applications. The block and drivetrain simply weren't up to the task. The engine suffered from weak lower end components. Main bearings and crankshafts were particularly vulnerable under full load, and excessive vibration further stressed the structure. Cavitation in the wet sleeves was a frequent killer, leading to coolant intrusion and catastrophic internal damage. The head gaskets were also prone to failure, often due to uneven heat distribution across the cylinder head, and the engine's cold start performance was poor, leaving many owners fighting just to get it running in colder months. Once in the field, power delivery was inconsistent and fuel efficiency lagged behind competitors. Compounding the issues was the 560's rear end, which wasn't reinforced to handle the diesel's torque, leading to widespread transmission and final drive failures. These problems resulted in a major recall and dealt a serious blow to IH's reputation. Instead of ushering in a new era of diesel dominance, the 560 with its C263 became a costly lesson in overpromising and under-engineering, one many farmers never forgot. Number 3, the John Deere 720. Diesel featured the company's signature 2-cylinder diesel engine, an engineering curiosity that delivered massive torque, but also brought along a host of drawbacks that frustrated many operators. While the engine was known for its low-end grunt and fuel efficiency, when working under heavy loads, its unique starting system was a major headache. Instead of using a conventional electric starter, the 720 diesel relied on a separate 2-cylinder gasoline pony motor to get the massive pistons turning, a complex and finicky setup that often failed when most needed. The pony motor required its own fuel, ignition, and maintenance, and starting it in cold weather was a battle in itself. Even when the starting system worked, the main engine had an extremely slow crank speed, and anywhere in the decompression or fuel systems made firing it up a frustrating chore. Once running, the engine was incredibly loud and vibrated so heavily that it could fatigue operators and shake components loose over time. It also had a narrow power band, and gear changes were often needed to keep it in its sweet spot, despite its strong torque. Maintenance was constant, everything from valve adjustments to pony motor tuning, making ownership more work than many expected. While the 720 diesel had a cult following and plenty of raw pulling power, its starting system and daily quirks made it a love-hate machine. For many, that big 2-cylinder bang felt more like a burden than a benefit. Number 2, the Belarus 825 tractor, while known for its rugged simplicity and affordability, was severely let down by its Minsk-built 4-cylinder diesel engine, a design that often felt decades behind its competitors and demanded constant patience from its operator. The engine was built for durability in theory, but in practice it suffered from an array of reliability and usability issues that made it one of the most frustrating power plants in its class. Cold starts were notoriously difficult, even with glow plugs or block heaters, thanks to poor fuel atomization, low compression in worn engines, and an antiquated preheating system that frequently failed. Once running, the engine was incredibly loud, vibrated heavily, and produced thick black smoke under load, revealing its inefficient combustion process. Rough idling and uneven power delivery were common, and the injection pump, often the source of many headaches, was prone to failure or miscalibration, causing stalling or erratic performance in the field. Oil leaks were a constant nuisance, with gasket failures and poor sealing surfaces leading to grime-caked engine compartments that required regular cleaning and attention. Cooling systems were rudimentary and often failed to keep up under long workdays, leading to overheating or even cracked heads in extreme cases. Even routine maintenance was a chore, with tight access to filters and fittings that turned basic service into a battle. While the Belarus 825 offered strong pulling ability and affordability up front, the Minsk diesel engine made ownership a long-term struggle of cold starts, oil stains, and mechanical improvisation. Rather than being the tough, low-cost workhorse it claimed to be, it often became a daily challenge for anyone who expected consistent, modern performance. Number 1. The Case 446 garden tractor had the bones of a rugged, capable machine, but its potential was constantly undercut by the problematic Onan CCK twin-cylinder engine. This flat, horizontally opposed air-cooled engine produced respectable torque and was a good match for the tractor's hydraulic drive system when it worked. However, reliability was a persistent thorn in the side of owners. The engine was prone to chronic overheating thanks to a combination of poor airflow, tight engine compartment space, and easily clogged cooling fins. This often led to warped heads, dropped valve seats, and blown head gaskets, turning routine mowing or light-duty work into costly repair jobs. Starting was another constant struggle. The early ignition systems used points and condensers that required frequent adjustment, and even minor misalignments could result in poor spark or hard starting, especially in cold or damp conditions. Oil leaks were common due to poor gasket sealing, worn valve guides, and weak crank seals, and the engine burned oil excessively as it aged. Vibration from the flat twin layout shook components loose over time, leading to electrical gremlins and cracked engine mounts. Fuel delivery issues were also common, with the carburetor often falling out of adjustment or gumming up, making smooth operation a rare luxury. On top of it all, parts availability became an issue as Onan support waned, leaving owners to scavenge or retrofit just to keep the tractor alive. While the Case 446's hydraulic drive and chassis were built to last, the Onan CCK engine made ownership a frustrating experience, filled with overheating, oil smoke, and constant tinkering. What could have been a standout garden tractor instead became a project that demanded nearly as much time in the garage as in the yard.